Hello, this is Thomas, K4SWL, and I'm here today to do a park activation at Tuttle Educational State Forest, sort of near Morganton, North Carolina. And as you can see, this is December 29th, 2020. Not a lot of people here, pretty much me in the picnic area. And this is one of my favorite little spots. When I'm traveling home, I probably mentioned in other videos, I'm a caregiver, sort of a part-time caregiver for my parents. I'm down here 2 or 3 times a week helping them out with things, which is especially important during the pandemic. And on the way home and sometimes on the way down here, I stop and do park activations. So a lot of my park activations are along that corridor. And this is one of my favorite spots first of all, they have great picnic tables everywhere, tons of them, lots of room, and then really nice trees when I want to put a wire antenna up. But that's not what I'm doing today. It's an impromptu activation, and I say that a lot because my lifestyle and my family schedule mean that I usually don't plot activations out the day before, unless they're just a vague idea. Usually it's something I do at the last minute when I realize I have enough time. And I decided to do something different today with Tuttle. First of all, I haven't set anything up. We're going to do that here because people ask to see all the components of the equipment, how they go together, so I'm going to do that today. The only thing I've done in advance is prepare my logbook with the name and the state park number, the identifier for Parks on the Air. And I did put out 2 counterpoises, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But basically today I brought the Elecraft KX3 with me, and I'm going to pair it with the Elecraft AX1 antenna. If you've watched any of my other videos or read any of my blog posts at qrpeer.com, you've seen me use this antenna before, primarily with the Elecraft KX2, because it makes for such an incredibly minimal sort of, setup. I think the very fastest activation I've ever done was using this antenna, and it was incredibly quick because it takes almost no time to deploy. The 2 counterpoises I put in here, I really only need 1 today maybe, but I put up 2 anyway. I have a counterpoise for the 40 meter band, which is about 31 or 33 feet long, and then I have a shorter one that's maybe 13 feet long for the 20 and 17 meter bands. I took the liberty of putting those out before I started the video because, as you can see, I wind my cords up in sort of a figure 8 shape so they don't tangle, but it's been really cold, and the cord has quite a bit of memory, so I have to stretch it out, and I wanted to do that in advance. This is actually more equipment than I'll be needing today, but I just brought the bags out of my car. But I have the KX3, the AX1, I have a 3 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery that's already done 3 full activations on 1 charge. I don't know how long it'll last today, so I actually brought one of my massive 15 amp hour lithium iron phosphate batteries with me, so if it starts to go out, I can do that. Change it over, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to set everything up and get it going, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my goals today. So let's see here if I can get this situated here. There we go. So first of all, I'll pull out the KX3. My KX3 has the Lexan Side KX protector on it. I like these Side KX panels. I've had them on my KX3 for probably 4 or more years, maybe 5 years. And I love them because I take this thing out in the field a lot, and it really does protect it, from being dropped. It doesn't hurt the front panel. Been very pleased with them. These are not a cheap addition, but I do like them, and I've used them a lot. Let's see what else I brought. So here's my power cable for the KX3. I'll go ahead and plug it in. I don't have internal batteries in this KX3. I've never found a really good pack for that. I may do it someday, but ever since I got the KX2, I just don't worry about it with the KX3 so much because I've got such a great portable setup in the KX2. Since I want to have inline fuses, I'll use my little ham radio workbench kit that's a DC distribution panel. Plug that in. I'll plug in the KX3 here, and now I've got power for as long as this lasts. But like I said, this is it probably already has about 3 hours worth of operating time on it, so I don't know how long this will go. This is only a 3 amp hour battery, and I have not recharged it. And now for the AX1 antenna. Now, I've never used this, like I said, with the KX3, so we'll see how this goes. But this bipod adapter should work well with it and help it give it a nice base there. I want to make sure I've got this switch set to 20 meters where we're going first. And then I simply screw in this telescoping whip. This whole thing is really, really tiny, which is the appeal of this. Now, if I operate 40 meters, I add this coil onto it and then plug the whip into that. And I may do that today because I have a hunch I won't be able to complete an activation on 20 meters. I rarely have that much activity. And then I extend this. I have to do it kind of carefully. This top section on my AX1 is a little finicky. It wants to pop out. So here we go. Extend this out all the way. And actually, I need to stop and think here for a second. I want to go ahead and attach the counterpoise now. And this is my counterpoise for the 31 feet. What I'll do is set this to the side for the moment. And then here's my counterpoise for 20 meters, which is like 13 feet or something. And Elecraft have made it so that you can basically use these points here. Let me see, I think I've got that right here. Yes. Let me undo this one and I'll use this. You attach your counterpoise to the ground here. And that should make a nice contact there. There we go. You need a counterpoise with this antenna. You can't, you know what, I'm going to switch this over here to this other side because this moves around a little too much for my liking. Tighten that back up. You need a counterpoise to this antenna. It will not work well without a counterpoise. In fact, I doubt you can even tune it up without a counterpoise. It's pretty much essential. I don't know if it's necessary or not, but I'm going to try this without doing this. I usually take it and put it between the chassis plates here instead of just between this fitting. Now, move this out of the way. We'll attach the AX1 antenna, and then I'll adjust the bipod to fit. There we go. Hey, that works. And of course the bipod fits fine because I think this was designed for both the KX3 and the KX2, so it's fully adjustable. Make sure it's really nice and tight so it doesn't move around too much. And let's see, if we take a step back, you'll kind of see how that all looks. It's very modest, very, very small antenna. And because it's a small compromised antenna, you can't expect it to do everything. It's just not, this is not going to work major DX here where we are. Now, if you're on the coast, maybe it will. And here's the proof in the pudding. Let's see if I can tune it up. Where will I go? Let's try this. I'm going to listen here for a moment. Then plug in my key. Let me grab my paddles. Everyone asks me about the paddles I've been using. And I hope I have them in this bag. If I don't, I'll have to go run back to my car and grab them. I think I am. I don't think I have it with me here. I don't have my paddles in this bag like I thought I did. So I'm going to run to the car real quick and grab my paddles, and I will be right back. You can listen here for me and make sure no one's on frequency, which it sounds like they're not. I may go ahead and try to tune this actually. Okay, that's not acceptable. That's too high, which means I'm probably, oh, I got a 1-to-1. Okay, I'll be right back. Let me grab my paddle. So this is how you can tell I'm not a YouTuber. Any self-respecting YouTuber would never leave a 1-minute segment of just practically dead air in a video. Instead, they would edit that out, but I hate editing videos. So that's one of the reasons these are the way they are. Let me move this down a little bit. I do think actually a friend was encouraging me to actually get a camera for this sort of thing, and I probably should. Let's see, I'm gonna tinker around with this a bit, see what works out. Here we go. We'll try this, okay? Thanks for bearing with me here, but this is real life. Okay, yeah. My side tone sounds a little funny, but let me sit down here and we'll get going. So I've already programmed in my CQ. I'll go ahead and start that. If I'm correct, I'm going to be calling CQ a lot and probably not getting a lot of responses. You can hear kind of how dead the band is. There's a little activity there, but not very much. So this is not ideal in any respect, but we'll give it a go anyway. So I'll probably be calling CQ a long time, but this will give us some time to talk about other things, right? I've got my trusty logbook here. I will write everything down in my logbook in pencil and paper, but off to the side, off the camera over here, I've actually got my tablet, and I'll plan to log contacts in that. I wasn't planning to actually bring my Microsoft Surface Go tablet out here because I just wanted this to be kind of nice, basic, old school pencil and paper. But to submit the logs to POTA, I'll have to transfer them later. And I usually use TQSL to do that, to make an ADA file and send it in to the W4 contact. And this particular time, I wanted to see what my reverse beacon network DB numbers would look like. And I do have internet access out here, so I thought I'd just kind of check. And I'd also see if maybe it's actually spotting me. Let me look here on the POTA website and see if I'm getting spotted. Yes, I'm being spotted. I've got an 11 dB spot. That's kind of impressive. So one of the reverse beacon network sites is giving me 11 dBs of signal strength, which is pretty impressive for this. But they are located, well, it looks like they're maybe in 7 territory, so who knows? They probably have a really nice antenna. Most of those reverse beacon network sites do. You know, I'm going to check my power setting here to make sure I'm actually up to the max. Yeah, 10 watts is the max here, so. One of the, there are not a lot of negatives with the KX3, if I'm being honest. This is no reason, I should say, this is the reason why it's such an incredibly popular radio with Elecraft and has been, is it's an incredibly full-featured, very high-performance radio that you can take to the field. And there are very few criticisms other than the speaker is very weak on this, and there's just not a lot of room in there for a big speaker. Sorry, I did get distracted here for a second because I want to make sure that I have my sorry, I'm hearing somebody there, and I realized I didn't have my preamp on. That's somebody else calling CQ. You know I'm going to move. I'm sure they can't hear me. Ooh, I hear I think I hear an electric fence. You hear that popping? When you're in a rural area and you hear that, you can bet that it's an electric fence doing that. Let me tune up again. Yeah, good. And let me start calling CQ again after I... Let's see if we can take care of the noise here with the noise blanker. And I always have to think through this. I'm so used to using my KX2 that I have to go back in here and figure out where... Here it is. So that, just the first position, noise blanker number 1 position, is taking care of it. So I won't do any more with that. Now let's go ahead and start calling CQ again. And then it'll respot me. It'll respot me. That noise you're hearing, that kind of gravelly noise, that's me touching the trackpad on my Surface Go. Whenever I touch that, I don't know why, but it emits a little RF noise. So my goal today really is to see how far of a signal I can grab with this little antenna setup on a day where band conditions are very much mediocre. In fact, I think it's pretty poor conditions today. And I'm running, 10 watts? But let's see what we can work. If this were on 40 meters, I think I would have already started working a few stations. And the noise, I should say, from my Surface Go happens almost exclusively on 20 meters. That's the area where it's resonant for some reason. And also, if I'm operating 20 meters with an antenna like an end fed, I'm wondering if that is somebody just off the side of me. Let me try this again. I was hearing a little bit of a noise, and this radio is really good at blocking adjacent interference because it has a roofing filter in it. Sometimes if someone's just slightly off frequency, you may not hear them. They're there, I can't hear them. We'll keep going. I don't anticipate this being a very easy activation. This could end up being a pretty long video because of that. Oh, but what I was about to say is if you're using an end-fed antenna or you don't have any sort of RF choke, okay, I think that was K. No, let's see. Is it K or a W? Okay. Okay, I'll take that. In Texas. Oh, right. This sounds a little weird on here, the buzzy speaker, because I've got the volume cranked up all the way. So far, 2 Texases and a California, 10 watts from North Carolina with this. It's pretty impressive. I was not expecting California today. But like I said, the speaker buzzes because I got it cranked way up so that you can hear it with the phone, with the video on my phone. Normally, I would be wearing earphones. When I operate on my own, I never use a speaker. I always use earphones or use my Hal Pro headset or something like that. Makes it way, way, way easier to hear weak signals in the field. Start calling CQ again. So, yeah, like I said, the audio from this doesn't sound optimal because I'm cranking this thing up really, really high. Normally I wouldn't do that. So you're hearing a little buzzing. But it does make it a little easier to hear. The side tone volume actually is independent of the receive volume, but I have the side tone cranked up, and I'm not going to leave that. I'm going to leave that where it is. So far we've got Texas, California, Florida, and Minnesota. That's very, very impressive. That's outperforming anything I would have guessed today with conditions the way they are today. But we'll just sit here for a while. I'm in not a huge hurry. I do need to head back before terribly long, but we'll see what we can work here on 20 meters. I'll move down to 40 probably before I leave. One thing I love about the KX3, by the way, everything's spaced beautifully on this radio. The knobs, I mean, this is where Elecraft is just amazing. They space everything so that basically even if you have gloves on, you could probably operate this. It's one of the things I love about my KX1, which is just a CW only transceiver. I think they made that in like 2001 or 2002 or something. And it's designed to be used with gloves on if you want to, and everything's very easy to touch. You don't accidentally hit two buttons at once. The encoder's a really nice size on the KX3, great display. There's plenty of separation between all of the connectors on the side, and since this panel's flat on both sides, it's very easy to insert things. That's one criticism I have of the 705, the ICOM IC705, is that the faceplate juts out and sort of comes in on the side. There's a little taper there, and most of the ports are right up against that tapered portion, and it's very difficult sometimes to plug things in and quickly. But this is a beautifully thought through radio, and if you're familiar with Elecraft at all, you'll know how their menus work and everything, but you really don't need to hit the menus in the field. It's very rare. There's a button assigned to almost everything. Someone may be in there. I'm hearing a little bit of a noise, but I widened the filter and it could be someone off the side a little bit. But anyway, the KX3, the reason it's just such a legendary little transceiver is because of just how beautifully it's designed. And I don't take this to the field as much as I used to. I used to take it to the field all the time, but after buying the KX2, KX2 is so incredibly field friendly that I use it all the time. In fact, it will remain, no matter what, my favorite field radio. Something would have to displace it at some point, and it's hard to displace the KX2 because it has an internal battery pack, it has an internal ATU, it's as big as the display is on this. I mean, that's the whole radio, because it's basically a KX3 in a smaller package. Unlike the KX3, it does not have 160 meters, it doesn't have 6 meters, you can't add a 2 meter option to it, you can't put a roofing filter in it. It has some limitations just due to size, but the KX2 I use more than probably any other radio I've ever owned because of it. And that's the reason you see me with it in the field a lot. Lately, people have been seeing me with the ICOM IC705, but that's mainly because I'm reviewing it right now. I love taking it to the field, but it's actually not, for me, it's not as ideal of a field radio as the KX2 and KX3 and those Elecraft radios, and the FT817 for that matter. Mainly because I'm a little nervous about the touch screen. I really do need to get something to protect the front faceplate of the 705. But for picnic tables, the 705 is brilliant. It's a wonderful little radio. It has great audio, better audio out of it than you will get from any of the Elecraft KX series. So let's see, I've got 6 contacts. I almost have a valid activation. I'll be honest with you. This is not typical of me to sit here on one frequency and call CQ for so long. I'll usually start frequency hopping to grab other people, but that's normally because I'm in a hurry. I'm trying not to be in a hurry today and just take my time. If you've got a couple hours to operate, then you can really take your time. I don't have that long today, but let's just hope I can get at least a couple more here on 20 meters. And the noise blanker, I'm noticing I can hear just a teeniest bit of pop. If I push up that noise blanker to like 2 or 3, levels 2 and 3 on that, it'll probably completely eliminate it, but it's not bothering me right now. I actually don't like running the noise blanker too hard because sometimes that can distort signals when you do that. So I just do it just enough to make it tolerable usually. But the noise blanker on the KX3 is excellent. Absolutely excellent. Another thing I do when I run CW is I usually use QSK, which is full break-in. I use full break-in QSK. And what that means is I have it set to where the audio recovery from the TR, the transmit-receive, every time it's transmitting, it's switching between the receiver and the transmitter. And back in the old days, you would actually have a receiver and a transmitter, and you'd have a switch in between them. It may be automatic on some sort of relay or something, or it may be that you actually switch it. After you transmit, you switch it over to receive. The KX3 and all of the Elecraft radios I know of, in fact, use pin diode switching, which is very quiet. There's no clicking, no nothing that you hear. And they all have really silky smooth QSK. And, whoops, I hear somebody. I'll call CQ again. But I like it because I can hear in between the characters. If someone's trying to send me their call sign and they don't use QSK, they can't hear that I'm still transmitting, so I'll stop my transmission and listen to them. Which is the reason I like QSK so much. For field work, I used to not like it, but I've become more and more comfortable with it as I've become more and more comfortable using CW, which I've really only been using since July of this year. So what, 5 months? I don't know, something like that. Now, in a situation like this, where I'm using a very compromised antenna at very low power, most of my signals I hear will probably be stronger signals. Those are people, with antennas that can make the most of my 10 watts, especially when you're out in California. He must have a decent antenna pointed this way to hear me. And it's rare when you have an antenna that's this compromised that you're going to work weak signal stuff, unless it just so happens that the person at the other end also is within your propagation footprint, and they're also running very low power. So it's not unheard of, but it's unlikely. So when I'm running this, I'm not as concerned about super weak signals that I may be hearing because they likely cannot hear me if they're that weak, unless they're just super low power. Maybe we'll move up to 17 meters here in a second. That's pushing it this time of day, probably. Let's do it. Let's move up to 17 meters. Never use this combination up here. Now I have to flip a switch on the side here up to 17 meters. We'll listen here for a second. Okay, let's see if we can tune up. Yeah, that was simple. Got a 1-to-1 match. Okay. Now, truth is, I wouldn't have. I listened for a bit and I knew no one was there. Never want to tune up on anyone. So what I'll do is start calling CQ. And here off to the side, you won't see this, but I'm going to go over to my laptop or my tablet. Oh, you're going to hear a lot of noise when I touch my trackpad here. Let's see if the reverse beacon network picks me up now. So when I come to a park and I'm an activator, I have several different strategies. Normally, if time's limited, I go to the band where I think I'm going to get the most contacts, put up the best antenna for the situation, the best radio, and deploy it as quickly as I can. Normally that'll be 40 meters, and I'll sometimes start on CW, because if I've scheduled it in advance on the POTA network, then it'll spot me, and I don't even have to have online access to spot myself. But if I'm working 40 meters, and let's say that I only get 6 contacts, like I've just done now on 20 meters, I'm thinking about, let me mark this in my logs here. Now, I'm not marking times in my logs. I'd normally do that, but I'm not doing it because off to the side, I'm actually taking my logs down on the N3 FJP software. Anyway, I'll maybe move to a different frequency and call CQ there. Another strategy I have is to go out and hunt. If I've got a internet connection where I can see where other park activators are, I'll give it a go and try to hunt them down while I'm in the field and do a park-to-park contact. And those are always really fun. I always try to do those if I have internet access. If I don't have internet access, I will often, if I've got time, just tune around and listen for parks. But it's tougher for me to do that in CW because I have to sort of listen to a longer exchange. I can kind of tell just by dialogue in phone if someone's doing a park contact. It's a little easier for me to do. But that's another strategy. And I actually got a really nice spot on the reverse beacon network. It spotted me at 14 dB. Looks like maybe from... Maybe I just heard somebody there. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. So one of the things you can do to interrupt the CW memory keyer is to touch the paddles or to press like transmit, or pretty much any other button on the radio will do it. Oh, wow. So I already know he's from New Hampshire because he's already worked me. Start calling again here. Wow, I'm now realizing how badly 17 meters affects how it can really, it's very sensitive to my surface go and any kind of emissions coming from it. And this is actually reminding me of something I'd forgotten about, which is I started talking about it and I got distracted, of course, which if you've watched any of my videos, you're probably used to that by now. But when you have RF coming back into your radio, now at QRP levels, like anything 20 watts and below, to be honest, you don't have to worry too much about that. You're probably not going to damage your radio. But in-fed antennas and verticals and things like that, where you've got maybe not the best ground plane or something, they will feed a little RF back into your radio. Well, I found that on 20 and probably now 17 meters as well, if I have RF coming back even at 5-10 watts on 20 meters, it makes my Surface Go act a little haywire. If I'm trying to move the mouse around, it doesn't respond properly. It kind of interferes. Some radios are very sensitive. I was watching Gilles, the radio prepper, not long ago when he reviewed the QRP Minion. And that little radio was incredibly sensitive to RF coming back, and it would mess up the keyer. So it was hard to do keying. So he had to put an RF choke in between his antenna and his radio to make that work. And my Chameleon antennas, actually, the verticals actually have an RF choke built into the coax, which is really nice, the coax they supply. And I need to build an RF choke for my radios, but frankly, I never operate north of 10, maybe 15 watts. It's very rare I do. I do with my Mission RG01. I'll operate up to 50 watt single sideband with it. And an RF choke would come in awfully handy when I do that. I think we may move down to the 40 meter band now. What do you say? This will require me turning off the radio, changing things out here. I hope you're able to actually see some of the text it's showing there. Okay. I sent QRT without thinking about it. Normally I'd send QSY because I'm going to move frequencies instead of just turning off. Sometimes I send that though because you'll have hunters and people that are listening and they're just maybe a little shy to go ahead and kick in and send you their call. And when they do that, when I send QRT or QSY, sometimes they'll send their call before I move, and I'll work them really quickly. Okay, let's turn this off, and let's change this over to 40 meters, which will require me pulling off the telescoping whip. I'll do that very carefully here. Laying it down. Let's see. I'll move this up so you can see what I'm doing here. Whoops. I really do need to get a better tripod probably. Okay. Go into this little bag. I've got a Maxpedition pack I really like using for holding this antenna. Oops. Did that backwards. This actually takes a bit to screw this in. Look at that coil though. We'll move this to 40 meters and see who we can work and how far away they are. If history is any indicator, 40 meters on this radio is, let me move the switch down here to 40 meters. There we go. Put in the telescoping whip again. 40 meters acts more like an NVIS antenna. Now, I need to also change the counterpoise wire. So do me a favor while I'm thinking about it, and if you tell anybody else about these videos, don't mention the fact that I got up and walked away from the video for 1 minute while I searched for a paddle. Any YouTuber people who know me, probably none of them do. I like to keep it that way so they don't criticize me for doing that. Here we go. Maybe I can promise to offer you a very honest radio experience. That sounds pretty diplomatic, doesn't it? An honest experience. There we go. It's a little touchy. I should have fixed the counterpoise before I put on the telescoping whip and all that. Okay, I've got it set to the 40 meter band. Now I need to move this back to where this foot is resting properly. And then readjust this. There we go. There's actually there's a tripod mount for this antenna, and I have one. And I've never hooked it up to a tripod yet. but I may do that sometime. Let's see if we can tune up now before. We'll see how well I've laid out. Whoops, how well I've laid out the counterpoise. We'll move down. Okay, let's see. I'll move this back down here. Oh, someone's on my frequency. Yeah, I don't have a frequency. People say that though. Hams get used to using the same frequencies over and over again, and it feels like theirs, but of course it's not. It's anybody's frequency who wants to use it. Okay, let's see. Now I'll mark in here. I moved to 40 meters. The whole time I'm listening to see if anyone's on there. I don't hear anyone, so I'm going to go ahead and do a tune. Come on, do it. Let's try it one more time. There we go. So when you activate the ATU in kind of rapid succession here on the KX3, it'll put it in a more persistent mode to do a tune-up. We're good. Okay. So I'm calling CQ here on 40. We'll see if the reverse beacon network spots me. What am I doing? Okay, yep. Okay. I am shocked this radio is still operating with this 3 amp hour battery for so long. I'm loving this battery though. I had a 4.5 amp hour battery. I kept calling it a 6 amp hour battery, but it's actually a 4.5 amp hour battery. And I really like that battery, but it was just, yeah, it's slightly chunky. Not bad really, but I'm always going for the smallest thing. So when they had a sale around Black Friday, I bought this, I think, for $70 or something, $69. There may have been a discount on top of that. And I'm very pleased with the amount of operating time I get out of it. Now, if I was really smart, I'd put in a memory for replies when it's F599. This happened again. Okay. Got it. Ah, this is annoying. There we go. What's happening is the volume's rattling the encoder and moving it. Maybe I got his call sign wrong. I'm not hearing anyone. I'll go ahead and call CQ again. I probably got his call sign wrong. I was doing too much at once off to the side. Let's see here. Also trying to log on the back end of this and not doing a very good job of it. Okay, that was a little too fast for me. W. No. Okay. Da-da-da. Trying to hold him still. Wow, there must be some serious QS Baker. Plus, I'm using this compromised antenna like this. That's one of the negatives, is fading will really affect you. Let's go ahead and just do it again. I'm probably really messing this guy up. He's trying to work me. And this is what you see, though, in the field. Like, things are going on. Like I've been trying to. Ugh. I think I got that right. Oh, this is so annoying. Okay, this HFK. Okay, he may not have heard that. Okay, I got that. Oh, E. What I did just now was I widened the bandwidth so that if this went off frequency, I think it's because I've got this roofing filter in it. It's so incredibly tight. And the volume control, the vibration, this thing's vibrating from the volume, and I think it's moving that just slightly, just that much. And I need to figure out, I can't remember how to do the lock on this right now. I used to do it a whole lot. Before anybody else calls me, I'm going to finish logging all these in my tablet before I forget. I am back here. Okay, so N8, SCO. I always want to make sure I don't have transcription issues with my logs later. K4DXC, WD8RIF. K3MRK. Oh wait, no, I didn't get him, I don't think. I got him, that's right. And this poor guy, what I was doing, his call sign ends with a K. And I used to have a call sign that ended with a K. It was K4S, or It was KF4TZK. And I found when I was using CW, and this has been years and years ago, it was very confusing sometimes to people. They didn't know if I had a K on the end or if I was just sending K, like OK. And I am programmed in my head when I hear a K that that's sort of like back to you or OK. So that's the reason I got that a little bit wrong there. But not that fellow's fault. He was doing a great job. But between that and my encoder moving from the vibrations, oh my goodness. That made for a confusing time. Let's see here. And I got AF8E. Oh boy, this is going to be an incredibly long video. Oh, over 1 hour. I'll call CQ one more time. And we'll see what happens here. I've got 15 logged. I don't really need anything else, but... okay. Lots. K8DRT. There we go. Michigan. You know what? I'm going to call it quits right now. Okay. So I'll turn this off so nobody can call me. I will mention one more thing. Some of you may have noticed the scrolling text as I was sending CW on here, and someone recently asked me if they could use a, they said, would it be cheating in the field if they were using a CW reader, when they're operating, and maybe even using a keyboard or something to send CW, and there's nothing cheating about that at all. You can certainly do it, and there are a lot of operators that do that, especially in contests where they're operating at really high speeds. The only thing is, these CW readers, I find that the KX3 and KX2 do a pretty good job, actually, of interpreting CW and decoding it, as long as you have the frequency really centered on someone and you've got it tuned up properly. But by and large, CW readers are not super accurate. Some are better than others. Software ones that you connect to a computer do a fairly a decent job. They got a little more horsepower, and they just work a little bit better. Portable ones, not as much. So you heard pileups in here where just multiple people were contacting me at once, and CW readers would fall apart during that, just like I fall apart during that. So, you know, they only help a certain amount. If you're new to CW, though, don't be afraid to send QRS, which just tells the other operators to slow down a bit. And typically, if you're sending at a slow speed, people will try to move down to that speed for you. Now, I've got to admit, I sometimes forget to do this in the field when I'm operating and someone comes back to me with a fairly slow speed. I don't slow down because it requires messing with something, and I don't want to adjust anything when I'm sort of in my own cadence. But I try to slow down the spacing. You know, I make bigger spaces in between my characters to make it easier for them to understand. But that's just something to keep in mind. There's nothing wrong at all with using a CW reader in the field. It's just they don't work that well. I do like having it running on the KX3 here, and the reason I had it up at all is it kind of forces me to look at the code I'm sending to try to keep it nice and uniform, and it helps you sort of produce better code. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to pack up, and I'll save you from having to watch me do that here at Tuttle Educational State Forest. But thank you once again for joining me. I really appreciate this. I'm so glad that some people are finding this useful. I'll continue doing this if people like it. I know it's not for everyone. These are very long videos. But if you want to find out more about this activation, I will post this on qrpeer.com. You could probably just do a search for Tuttle, and I'll have a little more details about the equipment and links and things like that to the manufacturers and stuff if you want it. But this was really fun, and I'm very happy with this. I've probably got almost 4 hours worth of operating time on this 3 amp hour battery, so I'm very pleased with that. And I just love taking the KX3 to the field. This is one of my all-time favorite field radios. And a lot of you asked about these paddles. These are made by CW Morse, and as you can tell, I use them so much. These are my favorites. I also like my N0SA paddles. They're very small. They're probably just the size of this portion of these paddles. And I keep them packed away with my MTR3B transceiver, so I don't have them out quite as often. But I really like them for their portability, and they're pretty rugged too. N0SA will make those, but I don't think he really advertises them very much. CW Morse is a family-owned company, and these are just phenomenal paddles. I've actually been using their paddles with a metal base in the shack quite a bit. So anyway, there you go. Thank you very much for joining me, and everyone have a really, really nice new year. This may be my last activation of the year for all I know. So Happy New Year, and take care. 7 3s.